All right, so we talked a lot of college basketball here this week on Bang the Book Radio. We talked about conference tournaments. Next week, we'll cram a lot of March Madness stuff into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday here on the show. And we talk all the time about futures betting, looking for value, trying to find those good opportunities that are out there in the betting markets. And PropSwap is one of those good ideas. Here's how PropSwap works. Let's say you lay a $100 futures bet on Michigan to win the NCAA championship. They win a couple of games, maybe 3 games, and you don't like the draw going forward. You're a little bit concerned about that. So you decide, you know what? I want to guarantee myself some profit. I want to get some equity out of this ticket. Whether you've held that bet for 2 months or 2 weeks, PropSwap still gives you the opportunity to list that ticket and get paid early. It's just that simple. Last year you had people buy cheap Loyola Chicago tickets and turn those into good money, a $10 ticket into $1,000. A Warriors futures ticket in the NBA at 2-to-1 odds. Just lots of great opportunities for you on PropSwap to find good prices and also to get some equity out of those tickets that you're selling at very good odds. So go to PropSwap.com/BTB to get started. Again, PropSwap.com/BTB. It's not just basketball over there. They've got football. They've got hockey. They've got college hockey. They have a lot of stuff over there. As long as there's a physical ticket or an app ticket, if you're a 3-star seller, you can post that over on PropSwap. So lots of good opportunities for you over there. It's legal to buy these tickets in 12 different states. Head to PropSwap.com/BTB for more details. All right, we transition over to the Major League Baseball side of things here now. I'm going to talk about 10 teams on today's show as I break down the American League West and the National League East. Give you some betting thoughts. And also what I'm going to do here, I'm going to send out my notes to everybody on the Bettor's Box mailing list. I know I had some people that sent me an email that wanted to sign up for it. I still have some holdover emails from last year. So I'm going to add the new ones to that mailing list. I'll send off these notes from this March 15th segment here. If you don't want to be on the mailing list anymore, just shoot me an email. Tell me that you want me to take you off the mailing list. I will definitely do that. No hard feelings. If you are somebody who's not on that mailing list, shoot me an email, adam@bangthebook.com. I'm not sure if I'll do this for all the MLB segments that I do here in the month of March, but I will do it with every edition of the Bettor's Box. So I cover a lot of things. I cover a lot of numbers, a lot of statistics, probably in your best interest to sign up for the notes mailing list here for the Bettor's Box and the MLB segment. So adam@bangthebook.com if that's something that you want to do. All right, let's talk American League West here. We start with the Houston Astros. Last year, 103-59 for the Astros. Bounced, of course, in 5 games by the Boston Red Sox in the American League Championship Series. Season win total here for the Astros, 96.5. Last year's team tied for the best Pythagorean win-loss record since 1960. That was a much better team than the 103-59 record would indicate. They were actually they were a much better team than the 103-59 record would indicate. They were a 109-53 team last year based on Pythagorean win-loss, which is a standings metric derived from run differential. So they were even better last year than their record would suggest. But this year I've got some concerns, and starting pitching depth is becoming a real weakness here. They are very top-heavy with Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole. Both guys had career years last year, particularly in the strikeout department. Cole seems more sustainable because Justin Verlander in his mid-30s now. This is a very top-heavy rotation, though, because behind Verlander and Cole, you've got Wade Miley, Colin McHugh, and Brad Peacock. Lance McCullers out for the year with Tommy John. Josh James delayed with a quad strain here in spring training. Forrest Whitley just not ready to go yet, and he's a guy that was limited to about 70 innings last year in the minor leagues. So I think there's a spot for Houston here if they want to be the team that gets Dallas Keuchel. But the problem is they probably only want Keuchel for 1 year. He'd like some multi-year security. You can't fault him for that. So maybe Houston has to bite the bullet and either give Keuchel a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years, or go with these depth options that they have. McHugh was a starter, wasn't very good in that role, went to the bullpen, was very, very good. Now he transitions back to a starting capacity. Brad Peacock, same thing, was a starter, then a reliever, now back to starting. So these are guys that have a track record. These are guys that you don't really have to worry about from a workload standpoint. But from a consistency standpoint, I'm not sure what to expect from them. I'm not sure if Wade Miley is the real deal with that contact management he developed in Milwaukee. I don't know how McHugh and Peacock, who have very good secondary offerings, I don't know how they do, with having to deepen their arsenals by being in the starting rotation. Lots of question marks here for this starting rotation. In fact, could create some depth issues for this bullpen as well, to the point where, a lot of bullpen innings mounting for these guys as we go throughout the season. The thing for Houston, though, is that there are no weaknesses in this lineup. This lineup is exceptionally good. Carlos Correa was hurt most of last year with a back problem. He should be good to go this year. Alex Bregman was a little bit late to the party in spring training with an elbow problem, but he's a guy that I think is not a dark horse, but a guy I like to win the MVP this year. Jose Altuve, very good. They add Michael Brantley. Great lineup, tremendous lineup. They'll out-hit some of their pitching concerns, and they'll still win the West Division here. But again, when you talk about players to watch, I mean, you've got several guys here in this starting rotation that you want to take a very close look at. We move on to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, 80-82 last year. Season win total here this year, 83.5. Unfortunately, some bad news here this week coming out of Angels camp that Andrew Heaney is already hurt. I presume Tyler Skaggs will be soon to follow. Heaney was a guy that really ramped up the workload last year relative to the previous 3 years. Disappointed to hear that he's already dealing with some discomfort. Matt Harvey, obviously a long injury history for him. Trevor Cahill is a guy that, he's not all that durable either. So rotation depth, a substantial issue for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim for this season. And also, I don't like the bullpen at all. They're hoping Cody Allen can return to form. I'm not so sure about that. He's the only guy with closer experience really in the back end of this bullpen. You've got Justin Anderson and Cam Bedrosian, some guys that have, had cameo appearances in that role, but Allen has to be good for this bullpen. I don't really know if he's going to be. I do like the offense. Obviously you've got Mike Trout. You have to like an offense with Mike Trout. Justin Upton, Andrelton Simmons, Justin Bour, Zach Cozart should be better coming back off the injury. They've got some offensive pieces, but man, I don't like this pitching staff at all, top to bottom. Just not a fan. I don't like the Brad Ausmus hire. There have been some articles here about Ausmus embracing analytics a little bit more, working alongside Billy Epler. That's fine. Show it to me before I actually believe it. Don't love that hire. Hate this pitching staff. And Jaime Barria, who's going to get one of these rotation spots here, 3.41 ERA last year, 4.58 FIP, 4.99 xFIP, 82.1% left on base percentage, horrible K rate, below average walk rate. Did induce some weak contact, so there is that, and credit to him for that. And it's a very good ballpark to be a fly ball pitcher, but I don't love this profile. Regression will be coming. And also looking at another guy here in this rotation, Matt Harvey, 12th highest fly ball and line drive average exit velocity last year. So he gave up a lot of hard contact. The Angels better score a ton of runs, but I'm looking at the Angels as an under team, under 83.5. I think they'll struggle to get to 500 again and waste yet another year of the prime of Mike Trout. The Oakland Athletics, 97-65 last year. Season win total this year, 83.5. This team is not getting nearly enough respect. I love this Oakland team. This is a season win total that I played. One of my biggest plays here of the season win total cycle here. I love this team. They've got a good offense. They still have an elite bullpen, despite some of the losses that they had. And, in fact, they pick up Joakim Soria. They spent some of their resources on him. He led the league last year among batters with 150 batted balls in average exit velocity against. So he's a perfect complementary piece to Blake Treinen. They still have Lou Trevino. They still have a lot of guys that are very, very solid relievers in that Oakland bullpen. Look, the rotation's not great. I get it. Mike Fiers, Marco Estrada, Brett Anderson, Frankie Montas, Chris Bassett. Small margins for error. Not a whole lot to get excited about here. But look in the minor leagues. Jesus Luzardo is going to be coming very soon. He looks like the real deal, one of the top prospects in this Oakland organization. James Kaprelian comes back from Tommy John this year. He should get that stock rising. A.J. Puck is the number 2 prospect in this system. Grant Holmes looks really good. By July or August, this Oakland rotation could look dramatically different. Dramatically different. I love this team. I really, truly do. They've got great depth organizationally. Franklin Barreto, Jorge Mateo, Dustin Fowler. They've got guys in the minor leagues as well that can step up in the event of injuries. Matt Chapman's the best third base defender in the American League. Matt Olson's a good hitter. Chris Davis, big power threat. Steven Piscotty. They've got a solid outfield. I love this Oakland team. Over 83.5. Probably my favorite season win total play here for the upcoming season. They hit for power. They've got that depth. And also, too, I don't think that this rotation will be as bad as people think. And I look at one key guy here in particular, and that's Marco Estrada. Marco Estrada last year, 5.64 ERA, 5.44 FIP, 5.79 xFIP, 24% ground ball percentage last season. Well, where was Marco Estrada last year? He was in Toronto. Top 5 parks in WOBA, weighted on base average, on fly balls and line drives last season. Toronto was 3rd. Yankee Stadium was 2nd. Fenway was 5th. Of the 28 starts that Estrada had last season, 17 of them in those 3 parks. He had 14 starts at home where he was very bad with a 5.43 ERA and a 5.70 slugging percentage against. In 2 starts at Yankee Stadium, Estrada allowed 13 runs on 13 hits and over, I think, 7 1/3 innings, and then 4 runs on 7 hits in his lone Fenway start. So was he good last year? No, not at all. But he was really bad in parks that are really bad for fly ball and line drive pitchers. Estrada does not induce ground balls. So I think there's some hidden surplus value here this season in Marco Estrada because Oakland's ballpark last year, Oakland Coliseum, was 20th in weighted on base average on fly balls and line drives. Texas was 4th, so he'll be a fade candidate when they go down to Arlington. But Angel Stadium was 15th. Minute Maid Park in Houston was 19th. Safeco Field was 22nd. So massive park factor upgrades here for Marco Estrada. I think a 4.25-ish ERA, not out of the question at all. And with this bullpen and with this offense, that's going to play for Marco Estrada. So Marco Estrada is a guy, I'm not saying you draft him in fantasy leagues. I'm not saying you get all excited about him. But when he's in a home dog role or a toss-up type of role this year, I will be looking to back him, both at home and on the road, because I think he will be a very undervalued commodity. Again, last year, top 5 parks in fly ball and line drive weighted on base average. His home park was 3rd. Yankee Stadium was 2nd, and he was terrible there. And then Fenway was 5th, and he was bad in his 1 start there. Now, much better park factors for Estrada. And really, even a guy like Mike Fiers, same kind of thing. Even a guy like Chris Bassett, same kind of thing. A lot of pitch to contact guys in this Oakland rotation, but they're a much better team defensively than they've been in the past. And also this park factor does kind of elevate those guys with that cool marine air and all of the foul territory at Oakland Coliseum. The Seattle Mariners here, 89-73 last year, but they were the biggest overachiever in baseball per Pythagorean win-loss, and then they went on to have a fire sale. Their season win total here, 71.5. The guys that are gone, Robinson Cano, Edwin Diaz, James Paxton, Gene Segura, Nelson Cruz. When I looked at this from last season, Edwin Diaz and James Paxton combined for 25% of the Mariners' total team strikeouts. So they lost a lot in losing those 2 guys. But that being said, season win total down to 71.5. I still like Mitch Haniger. I still like Domingo Santana. It's a bummer that Kyle Seager is going to be out for the next 6 weeks, which will take him essentially into the month of May when it comes to his return. But, still some professional hitters, guys like Jay Bruce, Edwin Encarnacion. Yeah, they're on the downsides of their career, but I don't think this lineup's going to be nearly as bad as people think. I like a guy like Malik Smith as well. So I don't think this lineup's going to be that bad. Now, I don't love the pitching staff. Marco Gonzalez, your opening day starter. That's cool. He's not bad. 4 average or better pitches. Couple of bad months last year. He's pretty good otherwise. Pitch to contact kind of guy, but, doesn't walk guys. And he's left-handed. And that always helps a little bit, especially when you're in a very good park factor like Gonzalez is. A lot of people, of course, going to be looking at Yusei Kikuchi. Deception, high swing and miss rates in Japan. I think he's a guy that could play above average here, especially at Safeco Field. So Gonzalez and Kikuchi, I think, are just fine at the top of this rotation. It's kind of everybody else that I'm a little bit worried about. We know King Felix is nothing anymore. Wade LeBlanc, not great. And Mike Leake, the guy I want to settle on here, or guy I want to focus on here. For Mike Leake last year, very high exit velocities against early in the season. And I talked about this in my picks and tips piece, and we had a nice little run backing Mike Leake in the middle of the year. He did not pitch well late in the season, though. this is a guy that needs to change his arsenal quite a bit. He did throw his sinker 9% less last year, needs to throw the slider and the cutter a lot more. If those changes take hold, maybe he's a guy we want to look to back. 4.36 ERA last year, 4.14 FIP, 4.15 xFIP. Average FIP and xFIP. He's not a great pitcher by any means, but he shouldn't hurt this team too much. Quite frankly, I don't mind going against the grain here with Seattle over 71.5. I don't love it by any means, but I think that there's a big overreaction to what this team lost. And not enough people are looking at what is still here. I think this team, despite a pretty weak bullpen, I think they'll be very competitive this season. Maybe they fall around 70 wins. Maybe this is a pretty good number. I'm not going to bet it personally, but if I had to take every team, I would look to take Seattle over. I just think that there's a little bit of an overreaction to everything that the Mariners have done here this offseason. One more team to talk about in the American League West is the Texas Rangers. I won't spend too much time on them. Season win total 67-95, or last year's record, 67-95. Season win total 70.5. Look, this is a bad team. You've got so many questions in this starting rotation. Does Mike Minor hold up for a second straight year as a starter? Lance Lynn in Arlington with command and control issues. That's terrifying. Edinson Volquez, Drew Smyly, Shelby Miller. All coming off of major injuries. Volquez off Tommy John, Smyly off of everything under the sun, Tommy John for Miller as well. You really got to wonder what those three guys are going to do. And really what the Rangers have done here is they've positioned themselves to trade those guys to contenders at the trade deadline. And you can't really fault them for that. I think it's a decent way to try and restock your farm system a little bit. But also, these guys are very high risk with marginal rewards. So I'd be very worried about this Texas starting rotation. In fact, I am very worried about this Texas starting rotation. I will say at least there's this, that Jose Leclerc, probably the best reliever you've never heard of. The closer for Texas, very, very good. At least if they have leads in the late innings, they should be able to hold those up with Leclerc and a guy like Jesse Chavez, and also a nice little pickup at Sean Kelly. Now, offensively for the Rangers, they're going to work with Nomar Mazara on his launch angle. We'll see if that pays any dividends. We know Joey Gallo hits dingers, but a lot of them are going to be solo here. I think Asdrubal Cabrera is the second best hitter in this lineup. He'll be traded in the month of July, quite possibly to Cleveland. And then Shin-Soo Choo, off of his first good year in the last three, he's heading into his age 37 season. You really worry a lot about this Texas team, both pitching-wise and offensively. This is an under to me. This is one I've considered betting. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but definitely looking at Texas under their season win total of 70.5. All right, we move on to the National League East here, where we start with the Atlanta Braves, last year's division champs in the NL East at 90-72. Their season win total 86.5 here. This is a clear-cut under pick for me. This is one I have played already. This is one I do like quite a bit. Look, they're the fourth best team in this division. They've got a good offense. They've got Ronald Acuna. They've got Freddie Freeman, Ozzie Albies. We'll see what Josh Donaldson does if he's healthy. Nick Markakis, Ender Inciarte, Johan Camargo. They've got guys that can hit. And the problem for Atlanta is that, except for Miami, everybody else in the division can hit too. The difference is they have pitching, and Atlanta does not. Mike Foltynewicz is already hurt, plus he was a regression guy anyway with a 2.85 ERA, 3.37 FIP, 3.77 xFIP. Big drop in BABIP, had a big strikeout spike. Usually you see the opposite. You'll see the strikeout spike, the BABIP go up. Adjusted arsenal, threw more sliders, fewer fastballs. That's good, but didn't get the same chase rate with more sliders. Got some swings and misses in the zone that I don't know if they're going to stick. Foltynewicz, though, actually is, quite frankly, outside of the injury, the least of my worries here. Sean Newcomb, 11.6% walk rate. Julio Teheran, 11.6% walk rate. Last year for Teheran, a BABIP of 217. That was way off of his career mark. 394 ERA, 483 FIP. He's a regression guy. They lost Anibal Sanchez. Tuki Toussaint's going to slot in the rotation, and he could be good, but I think right now he has more of a bullpen profile as he develops all of his pitches in that arsenal. I hate this rotation. I really, truly do. I think there's some upside in the minor leagues. There's good AAA depth. Those guys will be up sooner rather than later probably. But, man, even with Kevin Gausman, who I think can be a little bit above average, I don't like the rotation. I think the bullpen is very pedestrian. Unless they go inside Craig Kimbrell, that would be a big help. I don't love this team. I like the offense. I don't like the pitching staff. And like I said, the teams in this division that can hit also have pitching. That puts them ahead of Atlanta in a lot of different ways. The Central's very strong. The West isn't really a complete pushover. So Atlanta under for me, under 86.5. Definitely one that's on my radar. As I said, I played it already, but we'll see if this thing goes back up again. I may double down a little bit on it. How about the Miami Marlins here? 63-98 last year. Their season win total 63.5. Already played the under on this one. I mean, this team is worse than last year, and the division is much, much stronger than last year. I don't know how this team avoids 100 losses. I really, truly don't. They're going to lose 50-plus games. They're probably going to lose 55 games in this division at least, playing 76 against these four teams. 55 losses already. Not asking for a whole lot to get the rest of the way to the under here on this one. Ryan Anderson is good. Starlin Castro is good. There's very little beyond that in terms of the starting lineup. They'll have a massive fire sale this summer with Carlos Granderson, Martin Prado, Wei-Yin Chen if somebody wants him. Starlin Castro's got a year and a half left. He could be on the move. They've got some other rental guys as well. They're looking to cut payroll wherever they can. The Marlins are going to look much different after the trade deadline here this year. It won't be a good look at all. And furthermore, something else to keep in mind, one of the rule changes, there's one trade deadline now. There's one trade deadline, and it's July 31st. Well, the fact that teams can't trade these waiver guys in August means that they're looking at 2 months of being rid of everybody. Last year, teams would decide, once they got into late August, well, I don't think we're going to do it this year. Let's make some waiver trades. Well, teams don't have that luxury now. Not that the Marlins are going to be in the hunt at all anyway, but maybe they would have made some waiver deals because guys get put on waivers just in case they get claimed. Then the teams try to work out a deal. If they can't, the player stays with the team. If they can, there's a waiver deal. There's no waiver trade deadline anymore at the end of August. So now these teams that are looking to be sellers absolutely have to get rid of these guys by July 31st. So like a Texas, like a Miami here, these teams that won't be in the hunt, they're going to go 2 months without some of those guys that they've traded away, as opposed to maybe 6 weeks or 4 weeks. So that's definitely a consideration here as well with some of these bottom feeder teams. For Miami, people are raving about Pablo Lopez, a velocity increase for him, solid minor league numbers. He's a contact management guy. I think he could be okay. I like Caleb Smith and Trevor Richards. Both of those guys missed some bats, but both of those guys also missed some time last year with injuries. Wei-Yin Chen, Dan Straley, serviceable at home, but complete punching bags on the road. I would not be shocked if the Marlins only win 25 road games this year. I really, truly wouldn't be shocked because they've got a starting staff that really has potential to get beaten up badly on the road, and they can't hit. At least at home, the fact that they can't hit, it's not as bad because they can pitch better at Marlins Park, but they can't hit. And if they can't hit on the road, they're not winning much of anything. How about these splits for Wei-Yin Chen? At home, in 78 innings, Wei-Yin Chen, a 1.62 ERA. Again, 78 innings. 180 batting average against, 245 on base, 283 slugging against, 230 WOBA against. Again, at home in 78 innings. In 55 and a third innings on the road, Wei-Yin Chen last year, a 9.27 ERA, 332 average against, 398 on base, 609 slugging percentage, a 419 WOBA against on the road. 419. I mean, that is incredible how bad Wei-Yin Chen was on the road last season. I would not expect it to be a whole hell of a lot different here this year. To give you a frame of reference here, last year, Christian Yelich, who won the MVP, had a 422 WOBA. So essentially, everybody on the road against Wei-Yin Chen hit like Christian Yelich, which is insanity. But that's just how bad Wei-Yin Chen was on the road last year, getting his 55 and a third innings. So obviously, Wei-Yin Chen may have some value at home. On the road, not at all. We'll play overs. We'll play first 5 overs. We'll play that type of stuff against Wei-Yin Chen when he's on the road. Let's take a look at the New York Mets here. 77 and 85 last year, 85 and a half their season win total. Look, this is an elite rotation. Jacob deGrom, Noah Syndergaard, Zach Wheeler, Jason Vargas even had some decent exit velocity numbers against. Steven Matz, the riddle for Mickey Callaway to solve here this year. Look, the Mets add Robinson Cano, Wilson Ramos, J.D. Davis. Dominic Smith and Pete Alonso are going to play at first now. They've got a more athletic bench with Jonathan Broxton, Juan Lagares, Adeiny Hechavarria. Jed Lowry's injured right now, but he'll be back. Todd Frazier's still okay. If Yoenis Cespedes comes back at all, that's a big boost. Brandon Nimmo had a great year last year. Michael Conforto closed out the year strong. I like this lineup quite a bit. I like their balance. I like their versatility. If Jeff McNeil plays in left field, it's going to be ugly. But, really outside of that, I mean, the Mets are a decent defensive team, I guess, overall, but a very solid offensive team. Problem is they play in a park that really suppresses offense. We'll have to see how that goes for them over the course of the year here. But, man, outside of the rotation, which is very strong, the bullpen is quality. You've got Edwin Diaz, Juris Familia. I love Robert Gisselman and Seth Lugo, two right-handers that I really like. Very high spin rate for Lugo's curveball. The only thing I worry about is that this team is a little bit older. But, really, I think the Mets have a lot of potential here this year. One guy I do want you to take a look at here, Jason Vargas. 5.77 ERA last year, 5.02 FIP, not good at all. 4.42 xFIP, though. So that home run to fly ball percentage should regress. 285 WOBA against at home, 394 WOBA against on the road. But over his last 54 and a third innings, held opposing hitters to a 288 WOBA and had some decent road efforts in Philadelphia, in Chicago against the Cubs, in Washington. So he was a guy that, was hurt early on in the season, but got better as the season went along. Again, had some decent exit velocity metrics. Jason Vargas is going to be a hidden gem, I think, at home in his starts this year for the Mets because DeGrom, Syndergaard, Wheeler, they're all going to be priced high. No one's going to bat an eye at Jason Vargas. And I think there could be some upside and some value there with him. Philadelphia Phillies, 80 and 82 last year. Season win total here this year, 89.5. Look, Bryce Harper's a big deal, but this was a strong lineup anyway. One thing that the Phillies were missing last year, I'm not a big batting average guy by any means. I'm definitely an on-base percentage type of guy and then a WOBA type of guy. But they were missing batting average at the top of the order. Now they get Andrew McCutchen. They get Gene Segura. They added that batting average element, and they didn't sacrifice walk rate. They still have Rhys Hoskins, who's going to walk a fair amount. Cesar Hernandez is a good on-base percentage guy. Maikel Franco was back to league average. This is a lineup that looks really, really strong overall. And you're going to have depth 1 through 8 in this lineup, guys that get on base, guys that put the ball in play, guys that hit for power. I like this lineup quite a bit here for the Phillies. Now, the pitching staff has some surplus value guys. Obviously, there's Aaron Nola, and you wonder about his innings increase going up to 212.1 innings last year. But Jake Arrieta was hurt last season. I would expect him to be more consistent. Nick Pivetta, 4.77 ERA, but a 3.80 FIP, 3.42 xFIP, well over a strikeout per inning. Cut his home run rate down by about 2.5% from 2017 to 2018. If he does that again this year, he's close to league average. So I would expect Pivetta to be closer to a 4 ERA with those good peripherals. Vince Velasquez, 4.85 ERA, 3.75 FIP. One thing that did really hurt these guys last year is that the Phillies were terrible defensively. They'll be better defensively this year. They won't be great by any means, but they will definitely be better. That'll help out this staff. The season win total just has no equity at this point with the Harper signing going up into the high 80s. But this will be a very good team, will be a playoff caliber team, should be right there for this division when all is said and done. Finally, we take a look at the Washington Nationals here. 82 and 80 last year, 88.5 their season win total. They added Patrick Corbin to go with Max Scherzer and Steven Strasburg. Hopefully Strasburg stays healthy this year. They also added Anibal Sanchez. And Anibal Sanchez really changed his arsenal around last season. Wound up with the second best average exit velocity against in baseball behind Joakim Soria. And I'll talk a lot about exit velocity as the season goes along, but think about it. If you're able to avoid hard contact, guys don't hit home runs with 88 mile per hour average exit velocities. They just don't do it. So the most detrimental of hits, the extra base hits, usually balls that get hit really, really hard. If you can minimize hard contact, you can have a lot of success. Sanchez is a guy that did that last year. I know people will look to fade him with his lower ERA and his higher xFIP, but I believe in the sustainability there of Anibal Sanchez, also going to a Nationals team that plays some pretty strong defense, which should help him as well. And look, you add Corbin, you add Sanchez, bring back Hellickson. you lost 30 bad starts from quad A pitchers last year. Also, I think you upgraded from Tanner Roark with Anibal Sanchez. I really like this Washington team quite a bit in the pitching department, at least from the starting pitching side. I like the lineup too. Even without Bryce Harper, lots of high velocity contact guys. Juan Soto, Anthony Rendon, who's the most underappreciated player in baseball. Adam Eaton, Trey Turner, guys that can run, guys that put the ball in play, guys that get on base. I like Brian Dozier as a bounce back candidate. I like this lineup quite a bit too. Now, the bullpen is my primary worry for Washington. High risk, high reward. Sean Doolittle gets hurt a lot, but misses a lot of bats. Trevor Rosenthal missed all of last year. Kyle Barraclough misses a lot of bats. The thing is, like the Indians, the Washington rotation will work deep into games. So that can help the bullpen out a little bit. But if injuries pop up for this bullpen, major concerns there for them. And obviously, Davey Martinez, people not too sold on him. So I do like Washington from a talent standpoint to win the East. I think there's a little bit of value on them. I like their season win total over a little bit. Again, high number. When you talk about high numbers, not a lot of margin for error. But, man, this NL East, very, very strong. But, again, I think the Braves, the team I would expect to take a pretty decent step back here this year, and obviously the Marlins, will be a punching bag. And, again, Oakland over in the American League West, my favorite season win total over bet here of the season. So, there you go. There's a look at the American League West and the National League East. Going to have to do some more baseball stuff here as the season getting very, very close. Again, make sure you head over to bangthebook.com. Check out all of my baseball content. Very 2 landing pages, the MLB season win total primer, and the season betting tips. Bookmark those. Check those out as you can. Also, the Kindle ebook available, and we'll get that PDF posted over at bangthebook.com as well. So lots of baseball stuff going on, lots of college basketball stuff going on. Very busy time of year. Keep it tuned to bangthebook.com.